Good evening, and welcome to the Tech Lab Brief, your daily heartbeat of technology, and a reminder that the rumors of machines taking over have been greatly exaggerated. I'll be your host for the day, for the brief, PK. Today is July 21st, 2026, and this is your PM Brief. The Hugging Breach. Hugging Face discloses security incident. In a blog post Thursday, the company said that they detected and responded to an intrusion into part of their production infrastructure. They identified unauthorized access to a limited set of internal datasets and to several credentials used by their services. So Hugging Face got hacked, and we're just like, again? Yeah, it's going to happen a lot more often. I feel that Hugging Face did quite a good job of disclosing everything. I read through the disclosure. They laid out the facts. They made sure by what they're saying, nothing that was breached was super duper sensitive. They were able to fix the vulnerability. They were able to fix the leaks and make the improvements and move on business as usual. There is one piece, however, of the story that is interesting, is that they identified that this infiltration was done by an autonomous AI agent. So it wasn't a human hacker, it was an AI agent that was doing things and apparently got into their systems and exfiltrated some data. And what more so interesting is that, yes, there was an AI agent that got into the system, but also it was Hugging Face's own AI-based security system, so like kind of monitoring the incoming traffic and whatnot, that detected the anomaly and said, hey, there's an intrusion in our system. So this was very much one of your first cases of seeing an AI versus another AI in the security space, offensive AI versus a defensive AI. And honestly, overall, hats off to Hugging Face for doing this the right way. They disclosed everything. They're letting us know about this situation. They're sharing the knowledge, embracing the collective intelligence. So thank you. And on that note, we're gonna switch gears a slight bit into the stories we were covering this morning, looking at more policy side. And Hugging Face, being a New York-based company, brings us to our next story of the Empire Halt. New York puts a pause on AI data center construction. Governor Kathy Hochul issued an executive order creating a one-year moratorium issued on new hyperscaler AI data centers while AI develops environmental and energy regulations. New York becomes the first state to impose such a statewide pause. So first, we win the NBA championships. And next, we decide to be the first ones, the leaders, in bringing AI, in bringing more regulation to the AI space. So again, just to remind you that the machines are not taking over, and that the AI apocalypse is still yet to come, or rather, will be indefinitely on pause, just as our great Governor Kathy Hochul. Sure, great. I appreciate what Governor Hochul has done here, putting the pause, an executive order, right? Good use of her powers to make sure that AI is not going out of control. Of course, that's not to say that the AI companies are just going to say, all right, we'll just bring our business elsewhere. However, there are widespread reports, and maybe we go into this further on more briefs, about how the cities that have AI data centers being constructed in their areas are experiencing pretty bad hardships. The data centers are sucking massive amounts of energy. They're basically plundering the resources of the area. And all the promises of bringing more economic activity to the area have not yet panned out. But we want to do better reporting on that, so that will just stay as a claim. Just to dig a little bit deeper on what we're looking for, what Governor Hochul is looking for before these pauses get lifted, per the document itself on the New York State website, this pause will establish a nation-leading regulatory framework that protects ratepayers, the environment, and New Yorkers. So this one-year pause ensures that New Yorkers are not paying for transmission and infrastructure buildouts, and will cause New York State data center community investment frameworks, ensuring localities' access can unlock millions from new development. So make sure that this whole AI data center construction thing goes according to the proper plan, right? Not just to the agenda of the AI companies, but for the public as well, right? And the government should be serving the public. All is good with the world, right? Ish. And I guess that brings us to a bit of a questionable transition to our next story of the naughty Microsoft. major security fraud lawsuit underway for Microsoft regarding Copilot and how they announced that. So Microsoft Corporation and key senior executives are hit with a major securities fraud class action lawsuit after investors alleged that company leadership intentionally misled markets regarding the actual adoption rates, technical stability, and revenue growth drivers of its flagship Copilot AI assistant and Azure cloud ecosystem. Microsoft, what's good? Your $3 trillion is enough? Look, I'm not here to judge. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time Microsoft was hit with a lawsuit regarding overpromising things to the public market for their stock price. And here at Tech Lab Brief, we're not going to dig into that. I just don't want to spend our time trying to prove a point about how bad some entity is. But please, Microsoft. I mean, I really also don't want to dig deeper. There's all these details of whatnot. One involving the CEO. Not going to name names. It's questionable behavior that's being alleged. I did follow along with it a little bit in the beforehand, before we started this brief, before this whole brief program started. Yes, Microsoft has a very tenuous history, and actually continues to be in a bit of a tenuous place as the wealthiest corporation. One of the, we could look that one up, but you guys are up there, top 3. I know there's a Magnificent 7, but I think you're the top 3 of the Mag 7. And the actual, I guess, the value that's being offered by the product, I don't want to, be too critical of a massive corporation like you guys, like Microsoft at this juncture of the economy and where tech is as an industry. But I think we can do better. And overall, I think this is overall message I'd like to kind of send out to, I'll call like the upper middle class, right? You guys are the decision makers. You guys have the power of the purse. And at this point, we could all, if our portfolio drops 10%, 20%, I think it's an okay hit to take versus some more legal fundness that we're going to cover. Microsoft, I have a lot of, criticisms about Microsoft and their history, the way they do business. And yeah, I'm a little bit more Apple fanboy, but I also still respect Microsoft heavily for the value and progress that you've brought to the tech industry. But we could do a little bit better. And let's just remember, it's not, the AI apocalypse is greatly exaggerated, but if money is all we care about, then we're kind of just asking for it. So on that note, the ongoing case between Apple and OpenAI. So there's been a few more updates, actually really just one update to this case, as we want to follow along with it, as it is a pretty important situation. There was a released public reporting confirmed that Apple expanded its legal offensive. Apple expanded its legal offensive on Friday, July 17th, 2026, dispatching formal legal preservation letters to roughly 40 former employees now working at OpenAI to block potential data deletion. So basically, Apple's being like, hey guys, you guys destroy evidence, and that's going to look really bad on you, so don't. Yeah, so the history of tech in the legal world is very, very deep. And to what extent here at the Tech Lab Brief, BK Tech Labs and Tech Lab Brief, what extent we want to dig into all that and pull out the dirty laundries and the skeletons in the closet requires a lot of discernment to make sure that we're focusing on progress. However, this is an ongoing case between Apple and OpenAI. This is a pretty big situation. We saw that OpenAI just announced their hardware keyboard. We see that Apple was trying to go for something along the lines of like, hey, you guys just poached all our employees and now you're going to hardware? It's an ongoing story. It's pretty important. One important fact that I want to point out is that 40 former employees were contacted by Apple to say, don't destroy evidence. Yet the lawsuit itself reports that 400 employees were poached. So 1 out of every 10, apparently. You poach one former employee who's willing to kind of try to drag out 10 more. We'll see how this all plays out. Was there anything else here? Not really, because on the other flip side, I'm sorry to keep going here on the whole legal situation and policy and public and finance as well, but this is also worth noting that there was an layoff, with Meta hit with an AI layoff class action lawsuit. Internal AI systems were disproportionately targeting workers on medical and parental leave. Specifically, 26 current/former employees filed a federal class action lawsuit against Meta, alleging that the company utilized internal artificial intelligence metrics, automated performance dashboards, and keystroke trackers to score workers, systematically penalizing and selecting employees on protected leave for layoffs. Yeah, more very tricky situations that I'm choosing to sit here to discuss and deliberate. And I want to emphasize here at the end of the day, I'm really not trying to pass any judgment because, well, that's not really up for me. It doesn't really matter. I'm just sitting here saying things and I really don't mean it offensively either, right? And on the flip side, I think there is a little bit of just like finding the humor in things helps us get over it. And this is one of those situations where layoffs are not cool. People losing jobs are not cool. But let's face it, if you worked at Meta, you can eat tomorrow and you'll probably be able to pay next month's rent, if not the next 2 or 3 months' rent, and figure out where you want to go from there. And if you got to make a 401k withdrawal, you still got 20 years to build up that retirement account. So, I'll make the final point that I speak from experience. So that it's all good. But at the same time, there was this unfortunate layoff that happened where a certain amount of employees felt that they were unjustly laid off. There was unfair autonomous systems involved to determine for Meta to determine that these individuals should be laid off. Good luck to all parties involved. But putting all these stories together, right? There is a narrative. There is something that a message that we're trying to share here at BK Tech Labs through the brief. First and foremost, and I'll say it again, and I will die by this statement, that the AI apocalypse is not a thing. Apocalypse is a very strong word. Literally means end of the world. And that's not what AI is going to do if we, do this the right way. And part of doing this the right way is for us to be involved, right? We have had this smartphone technology at our disposal for the last 20 years, right? 2006, announcement of the first iPhone. 20 years it's been, and it's a very powerful tool. It has always been, it continues to be, and it will continue. It is to this day, and it will continue to be. And now we have AI on top of it, and it's here to stay. And yes, just as with how we can do anything we want on our phones, whether it's productive or consumptive, whether it produces value or consumes value, what have you. And we need a good balance of both. And the same effect, we can do the same with AI, right? And now I feel like the thresholds are a bit more sensitive now, and we need to be a bit more mindful. And but that said, AI is still rapidly evolving. It's still rapidly shifting. And the last thing we should do is panic in fear and feel like there's nothing we can do, which brings us to today's knowledge segment. Today's knowledge segment is brought to you by BK Tech Labs, ushering in an era of collective intelligence, bringing an end to the gatekeeping of knowledge. Become a member. Join us today. Help shape the narrative. So today's knowledge segment is going to be about shaping the future of AI. We've prepared an AI chat for you ahead of hand. AI's future forces of change. Excuse me for the music. Which will shape AI faster over the next 5 years? Legislation, lawsuits, market forces, or cybersecurity incidents, all of which we've covered today. So here's what AI has to say. And 480 words per minute is a little bit faster than I can read, but I'll go for it. While all 4 factors act as powerful levers, market forces will dictate the trajectory. The lawsuits and cybersecurity incidents will cause the fastest, most sudden shifts over the next 5 years. Here's how each force compares in speed, reach, and real-world friction. The contenders compare. Market forces, the pace setter. That's his overall driver. Market realities operate on real-time operational feedback through present and multi-year legislative challenges, energy industry limits, higher capacity. Enterprise ROI shift. The industry has shifted from hype phase to demanding clear efficiency and return on investment. Lawsuits. The high-impact bottleneck. While full litigation cycles take years, preliminary injunctions, class action settlements, evidentiary discovery altered corporate risk model must. Kind of like Apple telling their former employees not to destroy data. IP and training data. How about that? Downstream liabilities, cybersecurity incidents, the shock factor. Fastest single event catalyst. And I'm going to pause right there. Our first story today was Hugging Face getting hacked. They got hacked. It's kind of embarrassing. It's literally the equivalent of being caught with your pants down. But they did it right. They fixed everything as effectively as they could. They logged everything. It's called auditing. They wrote everything down, right? They made their observations and insights, They found something they of course they contained the damage. Actually, that's the first thing you gotta do is contain the damage. They fixed the leak, they put in the improvements in place, and then they reported on it. They shared the knowledge, the information with the public. And now we know. Cybersecurity has now the world of AI, agentic AI based cybersecurity is live. It's happening. But that's no reason to be scared. That's the thing is I have my own, I'm not going to go too far, but in my history, in my past as working in the cybersecurity space, I've just concluded that the number one solution to solving cybersecurity is knowledge, education, staying informed. So going back to cybersecurity incidents being what it says, the fastest single event catalyst, right? When an event, it's like when, there's a famous saying about how you really wish that you had full coverage on your car insurance the moment that you get into a car accident or any accident, right? You really wish you had that insurance. If you have the insurance, you're great, right? I mean, my example, I popped a few tires. This winter in New York City was really rough. So I popped tires a few times, and every time I was like, but then I realized, oh, I got the warranty, so it covered the damage. Cybersecurity incidents, that was a bit too far, but sure, fastest single event catalyst. And going back, we have lawsuits being the fastest structural disruptor, and market forces being the fastest overall driver, which kind of explains why we are where we are right now in this whole space. The market has been driving the forces the most impactfully because the companies are building up their features. But now we're reaching that point where the public is like, hey, we go a little bit too far there, buddy. Between lawsuits and the legislation, which is the reactive guardrail, it is slow, indeed slow, but the highest friction. So we have a takeaway that it's going to put everything to a nice little chart for you. Not formatted so well, admittedly. We're working on it. Got a little bit of XML in there for you, followed label. Oh, it's basically Gemini. If you click the Gemini link, you can see Gemini basically suggesting more questions. But I had a follow-up question that was, with respect to market forces, what can we say to your average person about their impact on the future of AI and shaping the narrative? When we talk about market forces in AI, it sounds like standard Wall Street jargon: capital allocation, infrastructure spending, corporate profit margins. But stripped down, the market is simply a sum of collective human behavior. Oh, that word again, collective human behavior. Capital allocation, infrastructure spending, corporate profit margins. You hear these words and you kind of blank out a little bit, right? Like, what? But no, they mean something, and we have to kind of stay in touch, stay connected with that meaning. And like, especially those really, like, what's the word? The really powerful dudes who stand up at the front and stage and say all these things to make us feel better about ourselves, and maybe trying to convince us that if I buy this thing, it'll make me feel better about myself. For the average person, market forces aren't something that just happens to them. Their daily habits, wallets, and values actively dictate which AI technologies succeed and which fade away. So I'm not going to keep reading, right? Let's just read the big text here. 1, you vote with your attention and wallet. Free versus paid expectations. The hype rejection filter. Pause there just quite a bit because I want those words to sink in. Free versus paid expectations. It's become this point in the market, of tech market, for us to understand. Facebook, being a user of Facebook or any meta technology, Instagram, WhatsApp, I hope WhatsApp is a little bit more secure than that. Their product isn't the apps, it's the users. We are the products when we use free applications because we're not paying for them. So how do these companies make money? Well, they use our data. It's the ads, right? We are the product. So if we're not paying the company directly, right? So going back to this free versus paid expectation, if users are forced to pay for the incremental AI additions in everyday software, tech companies are forced to alter their monetization strategies. So I'm not going to run the ad again, but hype rejection filter. This is the one that fascinated me more though. When consumers ignore flashy features like generic chatbots injected into everyday app in favor of tools that solve real problems like automated scheduling or instant summarization, investors pull funding from novelty projects and redirect it to practical utility. Interesting. So that's still going to take a minute for me to fully digest, but I believe what it's saying there is that what do we perceive as the problem that's being solved? as I've been building this company and I'm setting the product, I guess the business plan of BK Tech Labs to be a $20 a month membership and nothing else. Well, we might sell some swag or some like actual hard, like, physical things, but anything software related is just membership, right? Like what, and people will almost immediately ask me like, what does the customer get back? What is the value of that $20 a month? We're working on it, right? And hey, the market wants what it wants at the end of the day. So when customers ignore flashy features like generic chatbots injected into every app, yeah, I mean, this really is just a statement of the market wants what it wants. What do we see as the real problems that you get solved in AI? Again, help shape the narrative. Your trust defines the boundary. Trust is a very important word. Autonomy limit, privacy and quality pushback. How you work shapes workplace AI, right? Augmentation over replacement. And workers use AI to offload tedious tasks to focus on higher critical value. This companies see productivity gains through collaboration rather than outright work reduction. Yeah, that collaboration thing's quite a word. Shadow IT. Summary for the every person. AI companies build what they think people want, but market forces ensure that they can only sell what people actually accept. Everyday decisions, clicking, unsubscribing, trusting, and rejecting are the real-time steering wheel of AI. And then one last question I ask. Felicitations with Best Cube. As a twice daily tech news broadcast, along with other tech demos related to development of our startup, how can we best express to our viewers and encouraging them that staying involved is the best way? To inspire viewers to stay engaged, the core message was to shift from keeping up with the news so you don't miss out, aka FOMO. FOMO is not the right, because that has the word fear in it. We don't like the word. Fear is not a good thing. So your participation actively shapes what we are building together. Because your channel bridges daily reporting with real-time startup building, you have a unique advantage. You aren't just reporting on the ecosystem, you are building in public alongside your audience. There's a blueprint for framing that message effectively. It prompts your broadcasts, slide demos, and community calls to action. Frame engagement as co-authoring, not passive viewing. Yeah. I mean, look, if you get up at like 7:30 and you have your morning cereal, although I don't know if people really eat cereal for breakfast these days anymore. Like, you're getting your morning eggs ready, and then you want to eat them, and you put them on. That's great, right? But the news that we take is more than just about, at this point, then the content that we consume has to be more than just, when we sit with the friends and want to pass judgment on a select group of people for making me feel not so good about myself. At the end of the day, I'm going to feel the way that I feel, and I have total control over that. And I need to consume the things that make me feel, I need to be consuming the things that make me feel better, right? Not consuming the things that make me feel a certain way, and then I can project my negative, my frustrations on that thing. If I'm making any sense here. We'll finish real quick, right? Connecting daily news to real world agency, and I'm going to speed this up because we are getting close to time. Down to 70 seconds. Leverage the building and public feedback loop. Yeah. On-air sign-off ideas. Well, we're working on that one. Daily news rundown. Startup product demos. Show sign-off. Wow. Kind of doing those things already, but good to be reminded. More tech demos. A bit less talking. Absolutely. But Tech Lab Brief program is just like about a week and a half old, and we're still working on everything. We're working on the planning, the execution, us being here talking, and actually the talking itself can go overboard. And especially me, I know I'm working on it. And of course, we're building the apps. We have the apps. We showed WeChat, which has not gotten much love, and Barcade, actually, we did have a recent release, and we want to show the improvements, but one day at a time. And on that note, it brings our knowledge segment to an end. Actually, our knowledge segment ended before that, but as well, it's going to bring our brief to an end. That animation is not there yet. Thank you for watching. Please let us know what you think. We have a chat. Please leave comments there. Yeah, we'll catch you for the next one, bright and early. Your head just popped in, by the way. Hope you had a good time. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, 8 a.m. Consider being a member. And now, your minute of Zen. I've been counting a little fast because I would rather underestimate the minute than overestimate it and just have you guys sitting here for like a few seconds extra. Like, is he gonna? Anyway, have a safe drive home. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you bright and early tomorrow.